On a cool, crisp morning in the nation's capital, dozens of legal professionals and spectators filed into the U.S. Supreme Court building to hear arguments in the first cases of the court's 2012 term. Among the cases justices would hear is Lozman versus the city of Riviera Beach, a case that could have a far-reaching effect on coastal communities throughout the United States. At issue is whether a houseboat owned by plaintiff Thane Lozman was a vessel or a place of residence at the time it was hauled out of the city's marina and destroyed by federal authorities at the behest of the city.
The importance of the case is in what constitutes a definition of a vessel, and that applies in a lot of different contexts, not just in the marina context, which is here, but casino gambling, offshore oil rigs. So the question of whether an owner's intent is important for a vessel definition, that will be decided by the court.
Well, it's important not just to Riviera Beach, but it's important to the United States. We must get a clear definition of what constitutes a vessel versus what constitutes a house. The Supreme Court has to make that interpretation in light of the fact that you had two lower courts that had opposing views. Now we're at the highest level of government, and that level of government, judicial branch, will determine house versus vessel, vessel versus house. We'll step back, we'll wait for the Supreme Court to do its job.
The mayor, the city's legal department, and all 5 members of the city council attended the hearing to show support as appellate attorney David Frederick argued the case on behalf of the city of Riviera Beach.
Just because of some of the arguments that we've heard, it's going to affect the way marinas, across this country are able to, operate. With all the redevelopment that we're doing at our marina, this is something that we definitely needed to understand.
I thought both sides did very well, but it's really hard to read, what's to happen from here on, because there were a lot of questions when the other attorneys, Lozman's attorneys, were presenting their case. Not so many questions when our attorneys were presenting their case. So, there was silence and a lot of thinking going on. So I think it might have been a good thing.
And it's important to not only to the residents of South Florida, but I can imagine the folks in the coastal areas that operate casino boats and things of that nature. It also affects them as well.
During approximately 45 minutes of arguments, attorneys for both sides vigorously argued points of maritime law that by most accounts are vague on the definition of a vessel and whether a vessel could also be a home.
I think our attorneys did a fine job representing the taxpayers of Riviera Beach. The only thing I'll really say about this case is it's very unfortunate that it had to go this far. But the city had to take a position. If we allowed Mr. Lozman to get away with not having insurance at the marina and not paying his rent, then we were setting precedents to allow everyone else who came into the marina the same, afford them the same luxury that he had.
David gave some strong arguments. Really excellent arguments, even going into the history of the decisions made by the other courts to support our position. And the information that he gave them should give them enough to give a position favorably to us.
I thought the justices were very well prepared. They gave both sides a spirited set of questions, and it was the Supreme Court, I think, at its best, probing the difficulties in each side's position.
This potentially landmark case could send a tidal wave throughout the U.S. marine industry. So much so, the law clinic at the University of Texas seized upon the opportunity to research the case on behalf of the city, giving its students a once-in-a-lifetime learning experience.
So we are trying to give students the practical opportunity to work on real cases with real clients and understand how real law is practiced. So when we had an opportunity to become involved in this case, it was a terrific opportunity for our students, and therefore we were delighted to be able to get involved.
This has been a hard-fought 6 years, and I'm very proud to say that the city was represented well. I thought the arguments went beautifully, and of course we are confident in a a victory for the city. But I think that the residents should be proud of its legal team and proud of its city council members who all attended this very historic presentation. They had students last year and new students this year work on our legal briefs. We had to do a lot of research. They had to help compile the amicus briefs. We had 5 individual amicus briefs filed on behalf of the city, and the work that they did saved the taxpayers thousands and thousands of dollars, because we would have had to pay to have that work done, and it was done on a pro bono basis. So we're very grateful to them.